The universe, it turns out, doesn't care about your feelings. The Galactic Confederation learned this the hard way, roughly 14 standard hours after executing what they believed was a surgical precision strike on a supposed military training facility located in the northern hemisphere of the notoriously unpredictable blue planet known as Earth. Unfortunately, intelligence reports compiled by species that consider antenna wiggling a valid form of psychological profiling were, unsurprisingly, flawed. One might assume that a civilization advanced enough to achieve faster-than-light travel would have also developed a method for faster-than-stupid decision-making. But, as history shows, technological progress and basic common sense rarely travel in sync. Since first contact 8 Earth years ago, humans had been a persistent thorn in the Confederation's side. These short-lived, bipedal mammals, peculiarly fond of keeping other species as pets, had refused to comply with galactic norms. They rejected trade regulations, declined Confederation membership, and worst of all, they laughed, openly, at the Grand Arbiter's ceremonial headgear during the New Cycle Summit. That it bore a striking resemblance to what humans called a toilet plunger was, of course, completely beside the point. Still, the Confederation had tolerated their defiance, mainly because Earth was tucked away in a galactic backwater. The cosmic equivalent of that weird apartment at the end of the hall everyone avoids because the resident might try to explain gravity as a hoax. They're primitives, declared Ambassador Zixtel at the emergency session that authorized the strike, his 3 mouthparts clicking in smug unison. Barely out of their own system. Chemical-based weapons. One demonstration of power and they'll submit, like all the others. The Supreme Commander of the Confederation Fleet, a gelatinous neural mass suspended in nutrient fluid and undefeated across 17 star systems, gurgled his agreement. Minimal casualties. Maximum psychological impact. Strike their military infrastructure. And so, the Confederation's most advanced warship, the Inevitable Righteousness, deployed a precision kinetic impactor on what was believed to be a military academy in a region humans call Montana. Xenoanthropologists had identified the compound as a training ground for juvenile human combatants, separated from their parental units to maximize state loyalty. The lack of defense systems was interpreted as proof of technological inferiority, making it a perfect target. The impact struck at 3:47 a.m. local time. Immediate. Silent. Devastating. Main structure gone in a flash. Secondary buildings followed. The Confederation's observers nodded with smug satisfaction. Textbook strike. Efficient. Flawless. Then they waited for the humans to respond. And waited. Silence for 12 hours. Then, suddenly, every monitoring station across the galaxy lit up with a massive spike in human communication. The diplomatic AI translating the messages began to overload with frequency and urgency of words like children, orphanage, and civilians. It was Grand Strategist Cavern who first realized the truth. His 6 eyes widened with the kind of horror rarely seen outside collapsing stars. "We made a mistake," he whispered. "Impossible," Zixtel snapped. "Our intel was clear. It was a youth military academy." "No," Cavern corrected, his voice shaking. "It was an orphanage. A care facility for human offspring without parents. Not soldiers. Children." The room fell into a silence heavier than any vacuum. "They'll understand," offered a trembling analyst. "We followed protocols. We issued warnings." The Supreme Commander's nutrient bath gurgled ominously. "Casualties?" Cavern's manipulator trembled as he transferred the data. 234 juvenile humans. 17 adult caretakers. "Children," the commander repeated, his voice flat through the translation unit. "We killed their young." Confederation members looked at each other, those who had eyes. In 10,000 years of unified galactic rule, they had extinguished civilizations, dismantled empires, erased threats to reality itself. But never had they targeted the children of any species. It was the young Tavian attaché, who had visited Earth twice, who finally spoke. "You don't understand what you've done," he said, his feathers trembling. "Humans don't think like us. They protect their young, all their young. And they don't separate war from emotion the way we do." "Explain," demanded the Supreme Commander. "For us, war is politics, strategy, resources. For humans, if you threaten their children, war becomes personal. And they do not show restraint." Reports now flooded in. Human military activity was spiking. Fleets recalled. Factories retooled overnight. Civilian networks shifting to full wartime posture. Then, across every screen, the official human response appeared. Humanity does not recognize the concept of limited warfare against those who target children. Your action has been classified as an extinction-level offense. You have 14 standard hours to evacuate all Confederation assets from human space. After that, no terms will be accepted. No mercy will be shown. May whatever gods you believe in have mercy on you. Because we will not. Humanity. A hush fell. Someone whispered, "This must be a bluff." The Tavian attaché was already heading toward the exit. "You still don't get it," he said. "For 10,000 years we fought by rules, with limit. Humans invented total war millennia ago." He paused at the door. "And that was just what they did to each other. We just made it personal. We didn't hit a military base. We hit their orphans." A wave of dread washed through the command chamber. For the first time in living memory, the Confederation wasn't facing an enemy. They were facing humanity. And it was angry. Certainly. Here's a rephrased and polished version of the passage that preserves the tone and dramatic impact while improving clarity and pacing. Rephrased passage. "Against us." Zixtel clicked, though his mouthparts trembled. "We govern 10,000 worlds." "They've already won," the Turavian attaché said softly. "That's what the ancient Hagloyans thought too. No one's heard from them in over 3,000 years. And all they did was threaten a human mining colony." As if on cue, the chamber's emergency lights flared red. The planetary defense grid around the Confederation's capital had just detected unauthorized ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel, thousands of them, unmistakably human in design. The universe, as previously noted, doesn't care about your feelings. But humans? They care a lot, especially about their children. Enough to burn the stars if it meant making a point. And now, the lesson was about to begin. If there were an intergalactic award for most catastrophic misreading of an enemy, the Galactic Confederation would have just won by such a staggering margin that new mathematics might be required to measure it. Unfortunately, there would be no trophy, only a fleet of very, very angry humans bearing down on them. At the heart of this disaster lay a colossal failure to understand human psychology, one that their most advanced AI and entire generations of xenosociologists with far too many tentacles and degrees had completely missed. A truth so simple that even a human toddler could articulate it. "You don't hurt kids, ever." I still don't understand the disproportionate response, High Admiral Corvex grumbled as klaxons screamed through the command center. His crystalline body refracted the emergency lighting in a kaleidoscope of color, beautiful under less apocalyptic circumstances. "We apologized," he continued. "We offered reparations. We even offered to build them a new orphanage." Grand Strategist Cav, whose many eyes hadn't blinked in 2 hours, stared at the tactical display of the advancing human fleet. "Admiral, imagine someone burned down your growth chamber and killed all your developing facets." "That's different," Corvex snapped. "Those are direct genetic descendants. These were just random human offspring. Not even related to most of the humans coming for us." The Turavian attaché, halfway through securing his personal effects, paused to offer a look that, in human terms, would be a deadpan eye roll. "And that, Admiral, is exactly why today will be especially unpleasant for you. Humans don't make that distinction. In fact, Sometimes they value unrelated children even more. On the central display, the human fleet closed in. It wasn't the numbers that frightened the Confederation, though there were plenty, but the silence. No demands. No negotiations. Not even the usual threats and dramatic ultimatums. Just quiet. And momentum. Perhaps they're trying to intimidate us, ventured a Gervidian strategist. The Supreme Commander's nutrient bath, now tinged yellow, a stress response for its species, gurgled ominously. Pull up a historical file. Human warfare. The AI complied, and holograms flickered around the room. Primitive blades, organized battle lines, armored divisions rolling across wastelands, cities blooming into mushroom clouds. Stop, the commander ordered. Analyze the pattern. Analysis complete, the AI said calmly. Human warfare has evolved from tribal skirmishes to total societal mobilization. Notably, the escalation of destructive capacity has been paralleled by an evolving ethical framework. Constraints. Zixtel interjected, seizing on hope. We can appeal to their morality. Clarification, the AI continued. Human moral constraints are situational. When they believe an existential threat or a sacred taboo has been violated, those constraints vanish. Define sacred taboo, the commander said grimly. Foremost, intentional harm to their young, especially those unable to protect themselves. Someone made a sound that defied translation, but was unmistakably dreadful. There must be a precedent, Zixtel insisted. An example of reconciliation after such an event? The AI paused, 1.3 seconds longer than usual. Closest historical parallel. Factions that deliberately targeted human children during global conflicts were not negotiated with. They were systematically eradicated, ideologies and all. As if in grim agreement, the tactical system chimed again. The human fleet had just accelerated, having their estimated time of arrival. But it was an accident, a junior tactician protested, limbs flailing. A cultural misreading. Not deliberate. Oh, they know that, the Turavian attaché said from the doorway. They probably knew it the moment we struck the target. That's what makes it worse. Then why? Because it doesn't matter, he replied. In human ethics, some mistakes are unforgivable. Once a line is crossed, it stays crossed. We showed them we're capable of killing their children. That makes us an existential threat. No intent required. The defense grid reported human ships breaching the outer perimeter. These weren't the massive capital vessels still en route, just smaller, faster strike craft. Each carrying a handful of humans. Special forces, Cav muttered, almost in awe. They're sending in their elite first. Monitoring systems struggled to keep up, then flickered with static. What are they doing? The commander demanded. Unknown, the AI responded. Their communication patterns don't match any known military protocols. It appears they are singing. The interference cleared just long enough to capture a haunting audio fragment. Perfectly synchronized human voices, rising in unison. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air. Silence fell once more. But this time, it carried a weight that spanned galaxies. Here's a rephrased version of your passage, preserving the tone, pacing, and emotional weight while improving clarity, flow, and dramatic impact. What is that? Someone whispered. The Turavian, already halfway out the door, turned back one last time. That's their war song. The Star-Spangled Banner. It's centuries old. He paused. You know what's strange about humans? Most species chant to intimidate their enemies. Humans? They sing about their flag surviving a bombardment. As if on cue, the defense grid lit up again. Multiple security breaches. Human operatives were already inside what was supposed to be the most secure command facility in the galaxy. This is impossible, gasped Zixtel. Our security systems are the most advanced in known space. A secondary screen flickered on, showing footage of a single human in sleek black combat gear. With cold precision, they dismantled a squad of guards. Every movement was practiced, and deadly. But what silenced the room wasn't the efficiency, it was the human's expression. Calm, unhurried, smiling. "We need to evacuate," the Supreme Commander declared. Its nutrient bath churned with alarm. "All non-essential personnel to shelters. Command staff to the secure." The lights died. 3 seconds later, emergency backups hummed to life, revealing a figure standing in the center of the chamber. No one had seen him enter. He wasn't in combat gear, just a simple diplomatic uniform. Silver hair, lined face, eyes old enough to have seen empires rise and fall. "Good afternoon," the human said, his smile as cold as vacuum. "I'm the diplomatic representative for humanity. I believe we've met, third row at the New Cycle Summit. I was the one who laughed at the Grand Arbiter's hat." Silence. "I've been authorized to offer you a single opportunity, a way to limit the scale of what's coming. Surrender those responsible for the Orphanage strike. All of them. From the analysts who misidentified the target to the commanders who gave the order." Ambassador Zixtel's mandibles clicked uneasily. "And if we comply, what terms will you offer the Confederation?" The smile widened barely. "Oh no. You misunderstand. The Confederation is over. Finished. Ceased to exist as of today. This offer isn't to save your government, it's to spare the innocent worlds not involved in your decision." The Supreme Commander's nutrient bath quivered. "You can't dismantle a galactic alliance over a single, regrettable incident." "Watch us," the human replied. "That's the thing your analysts never understood. Humans aren't just adaptive or aggressive. We're vindictive. When you hurt what we love, we don't just fight. We erase. We salt the ground. We make examples." He glanced at a device on his wrist. "You have 30 minutes to compile the list. After that, we stop asking nicely." He vanished. In his place, a small device blinked steadily on the central table. The Turavian slipped through the door without a word. No one stopped him. They were all too busy watching the tactical display. The full human fleet had arrived. Thousands upon thousands of ships. Fighters, frigates, dreadnoughts, ships so large they cast shadows across entire continents. On every one of them, painted near the hull, was the same image, a small stuffed bear. Zixtel squinted. "I don't understand the symbol." The AI's voice was oddly subdued. "It's a teddy bear. A comfort object. Often given to human children, especially orphans." The Supreme Commander stared at the screen, its voice barely audible. 30 minutes, begin compiling the list." Chaos erupted. Officials scrambled. Orders flew. But Grand Strategist Cav remained frozen, staring at the screen. "We thought we understood them," he murmured. "We studied their weapons, their tactics, their psychology. But we never understood what they become when you take something they love." The countdown continued, each tick echoing the inevitability of what was coming. History, if any survived to record it, might call humanity's response disproportionate. Humans had another word: appropriate. The timer reached 0. The list the Confederation managed to assemble contained just 12 names. 12 individuals blamed for an atrocity authorized by a political structure spanning 10,000 worlds. The human diplomat reappeared the instant the countdown ended. He glanced at the list and laughed, not with humor but the empty laugh of someone whose expectations had been met in the worst way. 12, he asked, scrolling. "Fascinating. You found exactly 12 people responsible. Try again." "We'll wait." They didn't. Even as the Confederation scrambled to explain chains of command and shared responsibilities, the first wave of human ships pierced the capital's defense grid. What followed was less battle, more artistry. The pride of Confederation military engineering, built over centuries, lasted 7 minutes. Humans didn't overpower it. They outthought it. Hundreds of small, unmanned ships, little more than engines with distress beacons, approached from all angles, each broadcasting civilian emergency code. Grid protocol forced system resources to verify each one. While the grid was busy trying to save fake civilians, human stealth ships, long dismissed as theoretical, took out the sensor arrays. Blind spots opened. Through those gaps poured Special Forces vessels, not to destroy but to retrieve. Confederation history, 10,000 years of it, was stored in vast archives beneath the Capitol. The humans took it, not to erase the past but to preserve it. "You're stealing our heritage," cried Zixtel, watching the feed in disbelief. "Our art, our knowledge, these belong to all sentience." "They do," the human replied. "Which is why we're saving them, before we dismantle your government. We don't destroy culture. Just tyrants." Meanwhile, on 317 worlds across the Confederation, human diplomatic ships appeared. Each delivered the same message. "Your leaders killed our children. Stand with them and share their fate. Or declare independence, and stay out of what comes next." It was, without doubt, the most elegant act of psychological warfare in recorded history. Not a single human weapon fired, not one overt threat issued. Just a quiet, clinical presentation of facts, a choice offered without anger or theatrics. And across every communication channel, the same haunting images appeared. The ruins of an orphanage, the broken bodies of children, and a united human fleet the galaxy never believed could exist. One by one, the worlds began to defect. First dozens, then hundreds. "This is illegal secession," raged the Grand Arbiter from deep within his emergency bunker. "They can't just—" "They're not doing anything," interrupted the human envoy. "We simply showed them the truth. The decisions are theirs." In the command center, the Supreme Commander stared in disbelief as the Confederation dissolved in real time. "How?" it gurgled. "How did you organize this so fast? Build a fleet this size without our notice?" The human diplomat smiled that same cold smile. "We didn't build anything new. Every ship out there already existed, just scattered among nations, corporations, private contractors. But when news of the orphanage came, something unheard of happened. We agreed." They gestured to the massive fleet displayed overhead. "That isn't the result of military buildup. It's what happens when humans stop fighting each other and aim their fury outward." "But your species is known for infighting," protested Kavorn. "Your history is defined by it." "Exactly," replied the human. "And now you understand why the galaxy should be grateful. Because when we fight each other, the rest of you get peace. But when we unite—" At that moment, the Confederation's main defense fleet finally mobilized. But instead of facing weapons, they were hit by something stranger. A wave of data injected directly into their command systems. It wasn't propaganda or demands. It was personal. Hundreds of thousands of messages, one from each human, addressed directly to the enemy. Each message contained the name, image, and biography of a child killed in the orphanage strike. Their dreams, their drawings, their favorite games. They ended with a single question. "Are you willing to die to protect the ones who murdered this child?" Faced with overwhelming force and overwhelming emotion, the Confederation fleet did the unthinkable. They refused to fight. Commanders stood down. Crews mutinied. The final embers of resistance sputtered out. In the Confederation's leadership bunker, the human diplomat surveyed the broken government like a scientist watching a failed experiment. "We'll take the full list now," they said. "Not 12 scapegoats. Everyone, from analysts to commanders. You have 1 hour. After that, we'll find them ourselves. And we're much less precise." Finally, the Grand Arbiter spoke. "And when this is done, what becomes of galactic civilization?" The human paused. "Something better, we hope. Something that understands there are lines that cannot be crossed, not even by accident. We don't want your planets or power. We want justice, and the certainty this never happens again." The list was delivered on time, 4,823 names. None escaped, because the thing about consequences is, they arrive whether you're ready or not. like in-laws or tax audit, but with more dread and fewer awkward dinners. Exactly one galactic standard week after the orphanage was reduced to rubble, the Confederation ceased to exist. Not metaphorically, but literally. Human forces secured every major site. They copied and preserved cultural archives before decommissioning command centers and transforming them into museums. The past was remembered, but no longer in power. As for the guilty? Not death, as many expected. Something harder. They were sentenced to rebuild, on Earth. Brick by brick, hand in hand with the families who had lost children. Poetic justice, murmured the human diplomat, watching former officials lay foundations. They'll spend their lives creating what they once destroyed. The former Supreme Commander, now just a civilian, struggled to comprehend. This isn't vengeance, it muttered. Where's the punishment? The human replied calmly. Oh, that's already done. We erased your legacy. The Confederation will be remembered for one thing: bombing an orphanage and paying the price. That was vengeance. This, they gestured to the construction site, this is justice. From the ashes of the Confederation, a new galactic structure emerged. Not a human empire, but a coalition of independent worlds. Humanity offered support, trade, and security. But in exchange, it demanded one unbreakable rule. The Montana Accord, a binding declaration that harming the young of any species, in any form, would trigger a unified, immediate declaration of total war. You've shifted the balance of power forever, observed Cavorn, now a delegate to the new coalition. No, said the human. We introduced something your civilizations never quite grasped. Consequences. Some lines, once crossed, change everything. 10 years later, at the site of the orphanage, a new, state-of-the-art center stood, surrounded by gardens, tended by those once held responsible. A plaque above its entrance read, "Here we remember the children who died and the civilization that died with them. May both remind us that the universe has lines that must never be crossed." Below that, in smaller print, "Humanity remembers its promises, to protect and to avenge." No one bombed another orphanage after that. No one even considered it.